Serious, what is the creepiest or most unexplained thing that's happened to you that you still think about to this day? Attention, serious tag notice: jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules, posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. I had a recurring nightmare of a pitch-black parasite sucking the life out of me. Sometimes it waited for me in dark corners to go to bed. My cats always slept on my bed during that time. For me, it was a very stressful time. I got an itch at the place of my chest where I dreamed the parasite was sucking my life out of me. I got sick and felt a pea-sized lump. I went to my doc and they ordered a biopsy of that lump. As it turned out, I had male breast cancer at the age of 28. After I got well again, the dream never came back and my cats slept in their places again and not on my bed. The dream was creepy enough. What it made for me were my cats protecting me. Cats are remarkably in tune with human health. Many stories of cats in nursing homes, spending time with someone right before they die. My own cat will never leave my side when I'm really sick. It's quite interesting. I've shared this before, but I still think it is an interesting story. I was exploring the area behind my house shortly after we moved in. The area back there had once been a small quarry that had since filled with water. It was a pit of pond that supposedly went straight down 60 feet if you stepped into it. I was walking along the edge and I came across a backpack filled with old video game cartridges and a set of clothing just laying on the ground. They were more than 64 and we found this around 2004, so they were outdated. Next to it was a set of clothing. The clothes were laying on the ground, spread out, pants and shirt, so it looked like someone laying down. They looked like they'd been there a long time. Same with the backpack. I told my parents and they called the cops. There had been no reports of missing children or anything in the area. We never got an explanation, but it was weird. Memorial to a child who drowned years before. Now I'm creeped out because I found similar in the woods once. A full little girl worth of clothing plus a backpack. There were underwear, socks, shoes, pink leggings, a light pink backpack with dark pink trim. I didn't touch any of it and called the police non-emergency line. I was hiking out towards the road while I was talking to them because I was sure they would want to check it out and would need help finding it. They told me there were no missing children matching the age description in our area, so that was it. I never opened the bag or touched any of the stuff. The whole thing felt really off and I didn't want to go back by myself. I had a schnauzer that could hear a cat stalk across a Persian rug. The slightest noise could wake her from a slumber and set off her constant barking. She made a great tent companion while on backpacking trips. Bears, raccoons, and skunks would all get fair warning if they came within range of our campsite. One morning we woke up from a night without interruptions in the backcountry of Colorado, and I found my tent's central building was no longer staked down by the aluminum stake that I had used, but instead by a piece of aspen branch that had been carved into what looked like a tiki statue. Nothing too ornate, but a snarling face with teeth had been carved from the bark, and it had obviously been heated in a fire to give it a brown color. My dog didn't make a sound, and I apparently slept harder than I thought. I scrambled out of the tent and looked around the small alpine lake and saw no other campers nor any sign that people had been around. Cut my trip short and hauled us the 8 miles back to my car. Not creepy as such, more just unexplained. As a kid, I was round a friend's house after school. It was a sunny day, so we went to the park near his house, then through the woods there. His younger brother was with us as well. In the woods beside the path, there were red berries on the ground. The berries had been arranged into 3 stick figures, which was weird as there were 3 of us. We got back to the house, and my friend and I decided to go back to take another look. His brother stayed at the house. When we got back, there were only 2 stick figures. My friend snapped a photo on his phone, then kicked the berries, and we ran back to the house. I have no idea what was going on. Was it just some kind of prank being pulled on us? Right after quarantine started, I got a package in the mail. It was addressed to my name and my address and contained 1 pink starburst and nothing else. To this day, I have no idea who sent it or why. The return address was a vacant office space across the country. If that's a prank by someone you know, that's a really good one. They know you'll ponder about it the rest of your life. We had a rescue dog years back, terrier mix. We lived in the countryside on a wooded hillside and owned about 5 acres of woodland and rough fields, mostly wild. This dog loved to be up there chasing rabbits, but loved her home too, so would never be gone for very long. One day she went missing. We took our other dogs up there and searched thoroughly, but nothing. We had another friend bring his dogs. Nothing. We advertised, put up posters. We did little but search high and low for 6 days, but nothing. On the 6th day, we had pretty much given up hope, but I decided to go up one last time because I had a hunch, a tickle in my belly, about one particular area which had already been thoroughly searched. I took a sickle and a pair of gardening gloves and hacked my way towards the center of a huge bramble patch. It was summer and all I could hear was birdsong and insects. But suddenly I heard a muffled yip. I called her name and then heard her again getting excited. She was deep underground in a rabbit warren. I stayed calling to her until help arrived. The local fire brigade were kind enough to come and help and advise, and we got her out eventually. She ran around like a demented muddy pup, and amazingly the vet said she was basically had probably been getting enough moisture from eating mud to keep her alive. I am not generally a fanciful person, but I just knew in my knower she was there. I had a short lucid dream, and the scene happened a few days later. I have things like this happen to me occasionally. I will dream a mundane conversation or activity, and a few months later I will be halfway through said action or conversation when the dream flashes back into my head. Despite knowing what is going to happen next, I am unable to change any of it. The most memorable occurred when I was about 14 or 15. I played soccer at the time, and I had a dream about being in front of a mirror, like where the mirror and sink are separate from the rest of the bathroom, like at a hotel, and I was brushing my hair and putting it up like I always did before games. I quickly forgot about it, and a few weeks later I accepted a position on a team that would be going to a national tournament in Tennessee. Flash forward like 6 months, and I am in the hotel brushing my hair exactly like in the dream. The mirror, sink, and room are exactly the same. Sink and room are was camping alone in a small one-person tent. All snug and secure in the tent, I went to sleep. Was woken by a clap of thunder at 3 a.m. to discover both the inner and outer tent door was wide open. That was freaky. I've had raccoons open my tent doors before. Probably that. Man, I love camping, but I don't think I'd ever be able to go camping alone, even in an Once I was hired to load firewood into my aunt's basement. She lives alone and left the basement door open for me while she went out. I usually swing the interior basement door as wide as I can when I walk in, and the door almost never closes completely, but once I heard it close, and when I was about to grab another load I saw that the deadbolt locked. When I walk in, my arms are filled with firewood, so I wouldn't be able to lock it myself. Looked out the window and checked the garage to see if she came home, but she wasn't there. The door itself was enclosed, so no wind to shut it. I tried various ways of slamming the door so it would lock by itself, but nothing worked. It's an isolated house, so I would have heard someone drive up, and it's highly unlikely someone walked over just to lock the door and leave and time it while I was piling up firewood, and there's wooden steps, so I would have heard someone walking down them. It's the only time I've seen a deadbolt lock itself in my life. My brother had a similar experience of things moving in an unexplained way. He was working at our house because he kept a vintage car in our garage. It was a detached garage in a gated yard, and he was totally alone at the house. He's working away, and all of a sudden his toolbox moved across the floor. He was totally freaked out and packed up and left ASAP. That house was odd. It was Edwardian and quite big. We had a couple of other odd happenings. A friend was very scared of an attic bedroom in that house. It did have a weird feel about it, and nobody ever wanted to sleep in there. My father-in-law also saw a figure walk behind him in a mirror, and I saw a figure in our bedroom. It was a child standing by my bed. We have only lived in modern houses since, and I'm back to being skeptical about hauntings and hoping all of those events can be explained. Removed. Something really similar happened to me. I was playing in my front yard as a kid. A dull red car began to drive past really slowly. Suddenly, I heard a loud, male voice telling me to go back inside, and I had this flash of a face of the man who was telling me this, like he was just beside me on my right. I dropped whatever I was playing with and ran like hell back into the house. Later that day, my dad came home from work and told us not to play out front without an adult because there had been a report of attempted kidnapping in the neighborhood. I was driving home from work on a long, somewhat dark road. I'll admit I was tired and cold and just wanted to get home. Speed limit was 16 and I was doing closer to 70. Suddenly, a girl with long blonde hair, a black coat with brown fur on the hood, and jeans just showed up in front of my car. I knew there was another car to my left up ahead, but it was black, and all I saw was that it was stopped before I saw her. I managed to maneuver around her. I was freaked out. I turned to a side street and stopped to figure out what was happening. Then a tall guy with a black coat and short hair gets out of the driver's side of the stopped car, grabbed her, dragged her to the car while she was fighting him, and put her back in the car. I called the police and gave them the description of the car and the direction it took off in. I never heard anything about it, and I have not stopped thinking about her since. It has been 2 years, edit. Just in case anyone is curious or could even know something, the location was Lincoln, Rias next to the high school. Jan 5, 2019. The car was a new black sports maybe car, with the tail light going all the way across the back of the car. George Washington Highway. Where that she was standing in the road. My first thought was that she might have jumped from the car and was trying to escape kidnappers, but if that was the case, I feel like she would have been running down the road and screaming or something, not standing in the middle. It may have been a pretext to get you to stop and help. My grandma and I both saw a dead person in our laundry room once. So, the laundry connected to the kitchen by a doorway. The doorway connected to the living room too. One afternoon, Grandma needed a hamper, so I followed her to the laundry. We saw the dead person as soon as we stepped foot in that doorway. It looked to be about my height. I was 6 or 7-ish and totally black. Not as in a black person, but a literal black coating on its skin. It was slumped near the washing machine. We only saw it for a split second. Enough time to register that it was there, and then it was gone. I remember my grandma saying, "Did you see that?" and laughing it off. She got the hamper and did her thing, and I just avoided the kitchen for a while, maybe around age 14, early 90s. We were traveling from Sup to Tacoma. We were about out of money, almost out of gas, no food, stuck in Chico, California. I sat in the car while Mom took my younger sisters to the restroom at a gas station. I was riddled with anxiety about our situation and looking down. The car door opened and I looked up. A lady that looked like a brown-haired Brady mom sat in the seat and faced me. "I'll leave you," and I said, "I'll leave you." She said, "It seems like you were down on your luck. Take this and give it to your mom. Tell her to pay it forward someday to someone who needs it." I looked down into my hand and there was a $100 bill. I looked up and she had disappeared. Nowhere in the parking lot, just vanished. I cried. When Mom came back, I told her what happened and she cried. I woke up in the bath at a very specific time, like 5:45. Twice. 10 years in between. Water was getting cold. I was naked. No memory of getting there. Some fragments of like seeing my own hand turning on the tap. No drugs or alcohol or even medication involved. The worst thing was the fear. When I woke up, I felt an inexplicable, almost primordial dread. Lasted for hours. I was shaking. Couldn't function. Still freaks me out thinking about it. Might have been 3 times. I can't remember properly. I still get the shakes from the memory. Lived on a 600-acre farm in Arkansas. Absolutely no one around for miles and miles and miles. Was out feeding the animals after getting home late one night. Just was finishing up and taking the buckets back to the barn. As I was locking up the feeding barn, we had a herding dog. Was a corgi. It just was going absolutely nuts and running into the woods, so I instantly went to investigate to make sure that the animals would be all right. Had a handheld spotlight, shining it into the woods. Saw nothing. The dog was just going absolutely nuts still, and I finally see him running between these trees towards this black splotch. Was somewhat humanoid shaped. One of my cats had been missing for a few weeks. I had given her up as gone. I had given a since. Had been for While on the phone with a friend 100 miles away who has never seen my house, he interrupts himself from talking about work and says with a strange urgency, "Doe, open your front door. Your cat is sitting on the porch waiting to come in." And of course, upon opening the door, I find her just casually sitting there. We were both beyond blown away. Between sobs of joy, I asked, "How did you know?" And he said, "I don't know, man. That was really weird." We caught a feral cat in our neighborhood and gave it to my in-laws who live in the country and will always take another barn cat. A friend and I from high school used to go out to this old county road and smoke a joint on a big hill facing a large, old brick house across the street that sat in a large field. The face of the house had 2 rows of 6 windows each, facing the road. One night we were chilling on said hill and looking out at the house as the sun was going down, and all of a sudden a light turned on in one of the windows and then shut off. Then another random window lit up, then shut off. It kept going faster. A window would light up and shut off and then go to another. I was deployed to Iraq and we stayed in a former prison in Baghdad. In college I was roommates with my childhood best friend for about 2 years.
Like and subscribe for more Reddit content. Watch the next video at the top of your screen.